Hello everyone, Anthony Austin here, and I'm here to do another, well actually a full review on the Simmons Pro Target 4x12x40 as you can get from a department store. The body is made out of aluminum. It's got a really nice coating on it. The coating hasn't scratched off no matter how much I've done to it. I'm sure I could actually physically scratch it off, but I've mounted this scope probably 4 times and you don't see any lines from mounting, and had rounds bouncing off of it, so there's no scratching from that. I'm really happy with the coating and overall quality of the metal used. It's a fairly thick aluminum, so I'm happy. It's got really nice caps on it. They spring up real well, and a lot better than some of the other, cheap craps I've seen on inexpensive rifles, and they're a lot better than the bikini straps anyways. Excuse me. Glass. The glass has good quality. It's not great, but it's good, and the coatings help. It's got multiple coatings and makes the image decently crisp as long as there's a lot of light, and the more light there is, of course, the better it's going to look, especially with the smaller diameter objective lens. But for what you're paying for it, for what you're getting, it's right in line. Really good, actually, but much better than I thought it would be. There is going to be some washout when the light starts to go down, and this is non-illuminated, so you don't get the contrast of the reticle either. But when the light starts going away, you start to see that it washes out the image, especially at farther ranges. The reticle on it is a very simple mil dot. The crosshairs are kind of thick. At 500 yards, the crosshairs are noticeably thick, so it's kind of, it still works for a large game and whatnot, but it's kind of not as good as it should be. The dots are kind of large as well, at any distance. Even 300 yards, they were larger than the bullseye. I probably could give you actual measurements, but you'll see them here in the video, or in the pictures. As you can see, the glass in these pictures at what you're looking at is 1,160 yards away, and the glass, or this is what it looks like with no optics. This is at 4 power, and this is zoomed in all the way at 12 power here. So you'll see that the reticle is still kind of large, but the magnification and the clarity is actually better than you'd expect. And of course, it looks better in real life than it does through these images, but even here in these images you can see that it's fairly decent setup for $77. Alright, the turrets. These are mil turrets, so this is a mil scope, which is amazing for how inexpensive it is. Oh, it's also second focal plane. I should probably put that in there. But these are really nice turrets for. I like how small they are. They're not, sticking way up real high. They're not real wide. They just work real well. And there's 6 mils of total adjustment per turn. And when you bottom it out in either elevation direction, you get 25 total mils of adjustment. So you get 25 mils from either stop, which is kind of nice, not bad. Clicks are good, as you can probably hear. They sound good, but they're not really, they don't like snap into place with as much authority as you'd probably want from a higher quality scope. But again, $77. And the clicks do track well. To set to 0, you got 3 itty bitty little Allen screws on here. One here, one here, one here. You gotta loosen those up, and then it turns freely, and then you tighten them back down. Not a very good system, and I'm pretty sure if you're not careful, it'd be extraordinarily easy to strip one of those suckers out, and it basically just ruins the scope if you do that, because you won't be able to make any adjustments. The turrets do have a tight spot when you turn them. Right around the 3 mark on right now, right here, starts to get a little tight, harder to turn, and you got to turn it past it right there, and then it loosens back up until it gets tight again at the 3. So I'm not sure what's up with this one, if it's just mine or if they're all like this. So it happens in either direction, so it's probably something with one of the mechanisms is off round. But yeah, anyways, Back to 0. Boom. It does track. They do have a little tight spot, but it does track. And after I zeroed it with the flat base, with the stock base that came on it, I only had 4.5 mils of elevation left for going up. So I only have 4.5 mils left, which would get you out to, I think it was 800, depending on the type of round you're using. But I wanted a little bit more, so I put on a 20 mil MOA ring bit or scope, 20 MOA base here, and that'll get me out to, or that'll give me a total of 10.5 mils. So about another 6 mils. So I now have 10.5 mils of elevation adjustment to play around with, and that's more than plenty. As far as tracking goes, I haven't done a full tracking test on this, but I did do some point of impact analysis using the reticle. So I zeroed, dialed in 1 mil, fired, and the rounds were landing really close to the 1 mil dot at 100 yards. So I was happy with that. And same with windage, it would also adjust exactly the same. As you see on this quick little picture I have here, I was just screwing around, moving the turrets and making sure it would go back to 0 every time, and it did, so I was really happy. At 300 yards, according to the ballistics app, with the rounds I was using, the correction was spot on. I dialed in the yard, or the correct milling for 300 yards, and rounds hit fairly close where I was aiming. But that was probably me anyway, but it was just a quick test and it worked well. So, and I also went back to 0, and I continued to fire on the zeroing target, and it held. Alrighty, shooting. It held 0. I put over 120 rounds through this thing now, and I assembled and disassembled it and messed around with it at least 4 times, and I've had no problems going back and zeroing it again, and it holds 0 shot after shot. So I was very happy with that. As I said, I already got the 20 mil base, because it does run out of elevation if you're going to be shooting past like 800, or even if you're shooting at 800, and you, depending on what round you use, you might be, having to resort to using the dots for holdover. Not that big a deal, actually. But the eye relief on this thing, I don't like that at all. It has a very small focus window for eye relief. It has no parallax adjustment as well. But for your eye relief, getting in just the right spot, you have to come back and forth a good bit, especially when you change the magnification. So if you're at 4, you're farther back. If you're at 12, you're a lot closer. So it's kind of a large range with a narrow focus window. No illumination. Sure, some pros and cons now. Pros is held 0. Awesome. Any scope, that should be the very bottom line. And for $77, I was kind of iffy if it was going to hold 0. The turrets track fairly well, and after you use the turrets for adjustment, it'll go. You put it back to 0, and your 0 will remain the same. For $77, I think that's extraordinary. Which another pro is the price, and it has decent glass. I mean, you're not going to shoot 1,200 yards with this setup, but in the right hands, it's probably capable of it. Some of the cons is, there is the questionable quality, especially with that spot in the turrets, and maybe it'll give out, but it's actually, the more I use it, the looser it gets, and I don't know if that's even a good thing either. So we'll see. The reticle size is also a con. It's kind of large, especially for target shooting, but it will work well if you're shooting at if you're just using it for hunting. It'll be fine for medium and large size game, no problem. If you're shooting prairie dogs at 600 yards, you might want to look at a different scope. Let's see. The eye relief was also a little bit of an issue, a con. That's probably my personal thing. I like to be able to get a system down and do the exact same thing in the exact same place, no matter what I'm using for magnification. Another con, no illumination. I didn't expect it to. I really don't need illumination for most of the time, but I noticed that when it got really overcast, a little illumination would give the reticle a little more contrast to the target, and that would have been nice. And final con is not a lot of contrast, especially when it gets low light. But as I said, when you're shooting, when it's even moderately sunny out, or it's a little overcast, or before it starts to hit dusk, you're absolutely fine. You won't have a problem at all. After it starts to go, even the sun starts to go down, you're basically done. Yeah, that's about it. I said it held 0 great, turrets track good, it returns to 0. Decent glass for the price, probably better than some of the stuff you're going to see on Amazon for double the price, triple the price. So for lacking a couple of the features and a little bit less specs and less cool factor for some of the pieces, you get actually a really solid basic scope. So I'm really happy with it, and now it's time to take it off and put it on something else. Personally, I talked to somebody someone messaged me on YouTube and said it wasn't that great for long range shooting on his AR, and I'd have to agree, but that's still probably what I would use this on. I'll put on a AR-10, something chambered in 308, semi-automatic, and just leave it be, and that'd be fine. So you crank it down the 4-power and use it like that. Yeah, I'm really happy with this. If you guys could, thumbs up, like, subscribe, say hi. I like answering questions and just chatting with people in the comments section. It makes my day when I get a message. So y'all stay safe and have a good one.